Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Yeah. So yeah, we're really proud to host this. It's our first time opening up the space to the public like this. So yeah, it means a lot to us that you guys are here for this moment.
Well, we're happy to be here. Thank you again. All right, so at Startup Grind, we like to get to know a little bit about the mystery behind the magic. So we're going to start with who you two are, all right? So JT, you first. Tell us about your early life, where you grew up, what your family was like, anything that comes to mind about how you kind of came about.
So as a kid, let's see, up until about high school, my parents and we moved around a lot. I grew up in Pennsylvania. That's where we really settled down. High school and college years. I have a younger brother who's actually on our product development team.
Oh, very cool.
I'm married to Sarah, who I don't know if you guys have ever read our story about like how we got started, but
Do tell.
yeah.
Do tell.
You want to tell? You want to tell?
Let's do it. Let's talk about that.
All right, so Sarah's my wife, and when we got married, sort of, we went shopping for a mattress, as many couples do, and they don't have any furniture or anything. So we went shopping for a mattress, and long story short, the experience was really terrible. It was very difficult, and after we decided on a mattress, we didn't like it. We spent about $3,500 on it. And we were told to spend some time sort of adjusting, and we did, and we didn't really adjust to it. So we attempted to do a return, and there was so much friction to actually follow through with that. We ended up just deciding to keep it.
Wow.
So anyways, that was really the where we got started.
You
as
saw
far as the idea.
pain.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, we will resume with that. So for you, like any early signs of entrepreneurship or what you wanted to do when you grew up or anything like that?
There were maybe a few signs. So in third grade, I sold my parents' car.
Oh, did they know about this?
Oh yeah, they were certainly surprised that they decided, and I heard them talking about selling it, and so I
took action, huh?
Yeah, took action.
Nice.
I was really involved with in fourth and fifth grade with we had an economy class, which is interesting in elementary school, but we ran a car wash, which was like exhilarating. We learned a little bit about trading stocks and things like that. In high school, I had like a little cake business where I like baked and sold cakes.
Aw, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then
Multi-talented guy, man.
yeah. So, anyways,
right.
yeah.
Well, very good. All right, so your turn, Daehee. Let's hear your backstory. Start with like family, where you grew up, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so my parents are actually here today, but we moved around quite a bit when we were younger too, between Korea, Texas, Iowa. Ended up in northeastern Pennsylvania, nearby where JT grew up as well, just coincidentally. And ended up, we went to Penn State together that way. I have a younger brother who lives in Austin right now. My two kids are here as well to join this event, and I have a fiance, Nancy, here.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. All right, any early signs of entrepreneurship, or what was your big, what I want to be when I grow up?
Well, growing up, I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my father, who actually recently retired. He was a Army officer. Went a totally different path. Ended up, doing that. Now selling mattresses.
Kind of similar, kind of different. All right, so you both ended up at Penn State, right? Do I have that one right? Is that what the university was?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So when you were in school, did you have your sights on entrepreneurship early on? Is that why you studied computer science? Were you both in computer science? Tell us a little bit about what your path was in school and kind of if it turned out as anticipated.
So for me, it was software engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really have always admired engineering because I love solving problems. As a kid, I was really into. I wanted to like build robots, so it's kind of like along that path.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah. So just out of so in my later years of high school and early college years, I started an IT company for small businesses in Pennsylvania. Like Lehigh Valley, where I grew up. So the way we actually connected was through a professor who had suggested that I go to an entrepreneur meetup.
Aww.
And so I was actually working on a software project at the time, and I'm not really into networking. I really haven't. It's just not really my thing.
Understandable.
But so I ended up going to this entrepreneur meetup at Penn State, and actually quite a large turnout. I'd say about 50 people, and really excited to like ask questions and bounce ideas. And one of the things I noticed pretty quickly was that not many people were building anything, and yeah, I didn't really intend to go back. I was looking for advising and cooperation and all those things. So as I went back to class and she asked me how it went, I shared my experience. I told her I wasn't really interested in going back. I really would rather just use my time building what I was working on. She said, "Funny you should say that. I have another student who said the same thing." And that was Daehee. So, so they connected us, and actually we hit it off pretty well. And I had my project, he had his projects, and we worked side by side through a few years in college.
Very good.
I was,
So your side of the
we would
story.
sit side by side, and he would teach me programming, and I would teach him just various like marketing strategies.
Okay.
My entry into just I guess that path was more recently in college. Between high school and college, I got my first job ever, which was at Sears as a commission salesman selling lawnmowers and grills, which I knew nothing about. But within a few weeks, I realized this is not a way to make a living doing minimum wage work. So I picked up a programming book, PHP book actually, and just started studying. I'd always dabbled and actually was web design was a passion since like 7th grade. But I realized I could make money utilizing this as a hobby. So then I ventured into the world of SEO, PPC, and then that opened up a whole world of like you can advertise to the whole world and they can find your product. So that was a really interesting insight that led me down a path of working on various projects and meeting JT.
Very good. All right. So I must admit, I'm a little bit personally curious. I'm now working at ASU in entrepreneurship. So how did you feel like your school supported the effort while you were in school, or for you to, build your ventures and whatnot? Or was it just kind of, what did you feel was the support that you got from the school?
So for me, and I mean, I'm sure everybody's experience is different, but besides connecting me with Daehee, also connecting me with certain professors and alumni that I was able to seek advising. Another thing is they had developed a special program for me around this project I was building. So in the business school, my syllabus was built around like certain business milestones, and in the engineering school, my syllabus for that class was built around the engineering milestones, and it was really great because the professors supported the success of what I was working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's been really great. I mean, beyond that, there's a network of Penn State. So there's quite a few Penn Staters out in the startup world, building some really great things, and so it's been good to just pick up the phone and catch up and get some advising and share stories.
Handy.
And there's a few notable Penn State alum who have kind of blazed a trail for other entrepreneurs who were were aspiring to build a business ourselves at the time. Some Y Combinator companies like Weebly and Zobni came out of there. They actually started something pretty interesting. They're called Penn State Startup Week. It's something that we'd love to I think ASU should probably take after as well. They invite a bunch of different entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley, fly them out, and they have a whole week of just various speaking and things like that, workshops and things like that. But yeah, just exposure to mentors and inspiration like that, and various events. It was eye-opening, and also just a lot of it has to also do with the quality of the professors. Certain professors who provide opportunities to utilize your time in class to actually create a project. So for me, I actually for example, I was able to take like AOL's keyword data and do a project around search marketing on that. So that was really valuable as well.
Very cool. Good. So then you two both took off to California. Is that right? Was this coincidental, or did you?
It didn't happen right away like
Not
that.
right away? Okay, so how did California
after
come about?
Pennsylvania, I wanted to go somewhere completely different in climate. So I ended up here in
Sure.
Arizona.
Okay.
So I moved out. JT, you can share how you ended
Yeah,
up.
so I ended up working for a consulting company in Florida.
Okay.
What we did was startups that were funded came to us, and with an idea, and we helped break it down to an MVP, and we would, rapidly build it and build their engineering team.
Right.
And so what ended up happening was one of my clients there, I had a job opportunity with, and who brought
Okay,
me out.
gotcha.
Right, and so my job there was to build the engineering team, sort of lead that, and there was an opportunity. We needed somebody to sort of help with business partnerships and marketing. The first person I thought of was Daehee.
Oh, I was going to say,
So we were
you
always
took that role?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we were always sort of looking for a chance to work together.
Okay, very cool.
So I ended up reaching out to Daehee the very day that we sort of realized it would have been a good fit, and coincidentally he was there in Palo Alto that night on a job. So yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
that's how we ended
Little
up back
serendipity
together.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about where your passion for the problem of mattresses came from. How did you get so connected with the idea of solving this?
So there's a little more background to it. So we were working together at this startup in Palo Alto, and we helped get it off the ground. Probably like 8 months into it, right? And we knew back in college that we always wanted to start a business together, just as an idea. That we were at the time in college, we were just kind of working on our own things, but just being in Silicon Valley, we also were kind of getting burnt out on the whole notion of build it and they will come, and just getting massive funding for it. I mean, that was a whole experience in itself, but we realized we wanted to try the different approach, and we really looked up to, at the time, startups like GitHub or 30-second Signals. They were able to bootstrap their way into a very large company and build a really great culture. So just looking at companies that set an example like that, we wanted to do something on our own where it was a business opportunity that would run on its own legs and grow organically, and not have to really force the solution onto it.
Yeah, so we wanted to start with one of our own problems. So rather than having a random idea and trying to seeing other startups and how could we make a twist or a variation on it, we wanted to start with a problem that we understood. Our criteria for whatever it was, just problem of our own. We didn't really care that it would be a massive business, just something that, if it was one of our problems, maybe it was somebody else's problem as well. So sort of keeping it simple. So yeah, we ended up sort of developing a set of criteria of whatever it was that we were going to do. And so starting with our own problem, started writing down all the things that have been painful for us.
Sure.
And near the top of the list was shopping for a mattress, and the actual mattress. So it sort of made sense. I mean, I don't know how much you want us to go into that, but what we ended up doing was
Go for it.
we started doing a little bit of research around mattress. We took a legal pad and we wrote at the top the hate list. And we listed everything we hated about shopping for a mattress and everything we hated about a mattress itself. And we were surprised about how long that list was. So we figured if we could just solve maybe half of them, which seemed reasonable, maybe we could have a good business. So that mattress that I bought, neither of us have built a physical product before. So, sort of taking the same approach with software, sort of to understand and sort of reverse engineer the object, and what is that fabric on the top? I've never seen anything like it. It's not like shirt material or or like denim or something. What is that? And sort of opening it up and looking at the different layers.
Did you cut open some mattresses for this?
Well, cut open my own.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. So anyways, we
that one that you didn't really prefer to have
right.
spent
It wasn't
on?
difficult for me. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure.
So definitely took a knife to it.
Did you write this off at some point?
Yeah. So what we ended up doing was searching for manufacturers and suppliers. Where do these materials come from? What are they? And began pricing it out just before we would necessarily take the leap. We're already starting to lean that direction with that list.
Researching still.
What would it cost to make this $3,500 mattress? And after getting pricing, like we figured the math might be wrong. We double and triple checked, and this $3,500 mattress could be manufactured between $300 and $350. Wow. And that was really the jaw dropper. So we were already leaning towards doing it. So that's the last thing we added to our list with triple asterisks, and like, all right, let's do it. Yeah.
You know, I've seen these billboards that say mattress stores are greedy. I don't know if you've seen these.
Yeah, you
but.
can see the sample here, actually. It's an experiment we're running. If you guys see it,
Yeah.
let us know what you think
No,
about it.
I get it. I get it. Very good. Okay, so, you know, I love the passion for bootstrapping, and yet a lot of people really get tripped up as entrepreneurs on how do I build my first prototype when it's a software thing that really requires time and expertise, but not tangible purchase of goods. You guys had to approach this, building a prototype, figuring out manufacturing. Tell us how you kind of came toward all that, how you really figured out how to build your first prototypes and approach manufacturing without looking toward investors.
Maybe we can talk about the physical product, and I can talk about the digital side.
Sure.
Like
so back when we created that criteria for whatever it was we were going to solve, one of those was that we wanted to bootstrap. So we wanted to kind of create the rules to the game and define the box that we'd have to build within. So we had just come from a company that was very heavily funded, and you know, and that's sort of that world, and we disagree with some of the decision making that goes on because of that. I'm not saying every startup's like that, but
Sure.
so anyways, what we ended up doing was, I ended up hopping into a car and driving around and meeting with manufacturers. So I went up and down like the East Coast, it's like, you know, Northeast all the way up as far as Connecticut, and actually met with suppliers face to face, and basically pitched them on this concept and what we wanted to build. And so we started by making phone calls, and nobody would field the call unless they knew who you were. So that's why we ended up taking the drive. So when you're meeting with somebody in person and you pitching them on this idea, you can see if they see what you see. Even if they see that it's like a long shot, you can see if they're sort of in line with you or if they think it's crazy. So that immediately started weeding out the suppliers who we could sort of get a sense that were going to help us at least start. And so, that was one point. Another was by meeting them in person, you know, in explaining what our dilemma, our problem is, you know, discussing terms and how we might pay for supplies and get started. So one of the big things they ended up doing was we convinced them to provide all of the different options that they had, all the materials, and pre-cut them for us, which is like sort of unheard of. So, and that's how we basically started our prototyping, was with all these materials they sort of gave to us.
So you're just great negotiators. That's how you pulled that off. That's
I mean,
awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying we're great at negotiating.
No, you are. I'm letting you know. Very good.
Thank you.
But these same vendors who believed in us since the beginning, we still work with most of them. So they've been just great partners. They were actually waiting for you know, a brand like this that wasn't going to take their product and spin up another gimmick. So it's been a great partnership in that sense. I want to touch upon the website side, because there's the physical product MVP, but then there's the website MVP. So
Sure.
Our hypothesis coming out of that hate list was, what if we created a high quality mattress, offered it at a fair price, and stripped away all the gimmicks that we all hate. So we wanted to just start somewhere with a website where we could start validating, because you're not going to validate unless a customer hands over their money. You can't just go around the street and say, hey, would you buy this? Because they're just going to, they may not actually want to buy it. You don't know until they actually hand over, their dollars
Sure.
that they worked for. So we created like a one-page single landing page that revolved around this hypothesis, describing what the problems that we're solving, and got some stock photography at the time, and actually started driving some traffic to it, and it validated right away as far as monetary response goes. But it was just a way for us to really know which direction we were headed into before we, I guess, invest too deeply into it. So the whole evolution of our company has been very iterative, like small pieces, and growing exponentially from there. Not trying to like take bite off too many big chunks that may put the company under that type of mindset. So
So there was a time where there was like, oh my gosh, we sold a mattress online. Quick, call those guys and have them make it.
Yeah. So the part that's just to kind of expand a little, when we launched that website and we drove traffic, we made a sale within the first 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So and then that was like sort of we were happy, but at the same time sort of freaking out because we didn't have a product.
Right.
It was we were describing what it was we wanted to build, and so yeah, I mean, sort of.
That's awesome.
So that's we took the site down. Of course, gave the person their money back and apologized. Yeah, and we got to work. So that was mid 2012.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. And good for you for studying digital marketing, because that certainly paid off. That's no small thing to pull off in and of itself to get that kind of attention that quickly. Well, that's terrific. I mean, customer-funded business is even a book these days, right? And really kind of validating like you did, and then finding a way to balance the cash flow in and the production and iteration. So very cool. One thing that's really, one of the things that I love about you guys is how much you care about your brand. And I know that that's intimately tied to the customer experience, but the brand itself, not a lot of companies put a lot of care into making sure that their brand represents who they are extremely well. And your brand is in line with what you would expect for a concierge level customer experience and a cool company to work for and all of these things. But how did you guys, did you always have an amazing brand? I'm talking about the representation, the visual of it. Or was there another version, and did someone persuade you to step it up to the level that you have? Or was that something that was important to you guys from the get-go?
As I described, it's been a very iterative process. So if you look at our branding from 3 years ago, it's going to be very different from it, how it is today. But what we quickly realized was, being a bootstrap startup, the brand was the primary growth engine for us, because
Absolutely.
we needed word of mouth to weigh heavier than paid marketing, because paid marketing it needs dollars in, whereas word of mouth, it's viral, right? So JT and I, we had never built like a true brand before, so it was really a journey in advising and constant improvement to get where we are today. And still, we're constantly just of the opinion that it still needs to improve. But the most important part was just distilling the brand values into a voice, aesthetics, all those type of things, and also hiring great people to help us with that.
Yeah, so the brand is essentially us, like in the things that we believe in, the things we stand for.
Right.
And so we use that as a tool to develop the product, to develop the service, even in how we hire people and have them join us. We're looking for those common values. And so when you have customers coming to you for the first time, we found that they really care about like what you believe in, what you stand for. So we've been working at like communicating those values through to the customer, so they understand us and they get us. And it goes all the way down to the product and how you receive it, the quality of the product and how it's designed, how it's made. Even if you don't like the product and you return it, like from A to Z, everything.
The experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. And I often, in talking with business owners, particularly when they're in those early launch stages, they always tell me, well, once I get traction and I'm ready to really grow, then I'll pay attention to branding, once I have revenue. And I'm like, well, you kind of might need that branding to create that revenue. And that's just one of the things that I feel like you guys really did right, and it definitely shows. So let's see here. So partnerships, let's talk about this for a second. Partnerships are almost essential in startups. It's also a tough thing to do right. I mean, the joke I always have is it's hard enough to do a marriage right. And yet in a business relationship, you don't even have the same level of motivation, although your income is tied to it, to kind of adjust yourself for the other person. So I'm always impressed when I see two business owners that are able to get along fabulously and really grow something together. So tell us your secrets, gentlemen.
I'd say the first is that we're sort of lucky. Our personalities are very compatible. So what are my strengths are Daehee's weaknesses, and my weaknesses are his strengths. So I'd say that's the first thing. Another is just mutual respect and trust. So even if whenever we have like a stalemate and we don't really know, like, all right, we disagree on this, we generally like settle it by deciding like, who's most passionate about it. And then at that point, it's like we're kind of quick to like concede and say, all right, well, you know what, let's just go with that. Or no, we'll just go with your way. But it doesn't happen very often. And yeah.
Yeah, just trust in each other, especially with once you're past the initial stage of the business. There's so many decisions where now I have to trust JT to make on his own, and and vice versa. So trust is like the foundational factor there. When you mentioned just us being opposites, that's definitely the case, especially when it comes to decision making. It helps us see both sides, and then we meet somewhere in the middle. And generally, that's worked out for us well. And also, most importantly, we're aligned around the vision of creating like a long-term sustainable business. So we know we're not going to like each like jeopardize business by like thinking about short-term either actions or taking money out just for our personal gain, those type of things. So just being aligned around that vision for the long term has been also key.
So we discussed this before we started, sort of like where we personally want to be, and agreed. And I think it really aligns with our our personal goals and Tuft Needle and the way we're building it. So I know when I'm making decisions or he's making decisions that it's for that that greater vision.
Right. Very good. So I'm not surprised that you guys have an amazing culture, but I have talked to a few of your employees and heard how much they adore the way that things happen around here. When you bring a new employee on, how do you ensure that they understand the culture and assimilate into it?
Well, kind of going back to the brand and the values, we understand like the way we think and the things that matter to us. I think there's always more to learn, and we're continue to get better at that. But so it starts with like how we find the people and interview and essentially have them join us. So we break our questions down based on the things that we care about as a collective. So what ends up happening is you have people joining you, and you can have a very diverse set of people and personalities and backgrounds, but people you wouldn't necessarily think would be compatible, but they just are. And that's because we all have like these certain things in common. So I mean, really think it starts with that is like
finding the right people, the right values.
Mm-hmm. As far as culture goes, also we believe in serving our own team members first, and then that will resonate out to every other touch point of the company, whether it's with our customers or our vendors. And I think that's been working out really well so far.
Sort of the mentality that you can't take care of others unless you can take care of yourself. So our first customer, we view ourselves as customers of the business of Tuft Needle. So our team is first priority, and then they'll take really great care of our customers.
And JT and I come into starting this business with past experiences of working at the startup. I had some corporate experience before that. JT had his own. So we knew what we didn't like and what we did like about those type of cultures. So we really wanted this also to be an experiment of what happens if we design our own culture based on those criteria. And as we hire more people, just being like a transparent, like flat organization, we take other people's perspectives into consideration to continue growing and developing in that way.
Okay, great. I understand your business is very data-driven. What does that mean, and how has it helped you be successful?
Well, so a business is mostly, it's people and the decisions they're making. So as the company gets bigger, there's more and more on the line. So for us, there's really 2 points of view. Maybe you take it from the point of view of Bootstrapped, but from the just overall making decisions, like we want to make decisions based on facts. And when we don't have the facts, we form a theory and we test that out, and whatever we need to do to sort of like reduce our risks. So data is like sort of seeking out the truth and the facts, rather than just making decisions based off of our gut and our whim.
What kinds of things do you think you guys track about your business that other businesses fail to find important to track, that have helped you make good decisions?
Well, I think a lot of businesses focus on collecting data on the marketing side, and that's pretty much just like a basic.
Which channels are working? And
yeah, but then the other points like customer feedback, really breaking it down to we care a lot about like NPS. We drive a lot of our decisions around that.
Net Promoter Score.
Yeah, I don't know how many other businesses really obsess about that. I know especially JT, he's checking every morning at our data and making sure it's not falling below a certain point. More importantly, it's constantly improving. But as it relates to data, I mean, just being bootstrapped, it's been critical for us to not make decisions based on gut, but really figure out how we can frame small digestible experiments to constantly move the business forward. So that's just been part of our mindset since the beginning, making sure we're always limiting downside and maximizing upside, so that every decision, just collectively, or all the decisions collectively, are going to continue growing the company.
Just for a little bit more context, we started the business with $6,000, and we've taken 0 outside funding. So, especially in the earlier days, like every decision you're making, especially spending money, is like a bet. And so if we make too big of a bet, it could be gone, right? So we had to form theories and test them, or we could be setting ourselves back. So there was a particular situation a couple years ago when we were first starting where we spent about $10,000. And at that time, it was enormous for us. It didn't end up working out the way we thought it would, and so that held us back for about a month. So it was a month of sitting on our hands based off of this sort of big mistake that maybe we would have been able to avoid if we were maybe did a smaller test. So we've always been test-driven, and we've made some mistakes, and we've sort of stepped out of that. So that was, it sort of taught us a lesson. Okay. But because we started that way, like we still take that same approach. It's core to our decision making and the entire team.
And we don't want to be risk averse, but just be able to accept the risk going into it.
Sure, make educated. Okay. Do you care to share how you have scaled since? Any numbers you want to give us from any direction?
So what we share publicly is our first full year in business, 2013, we did $1 million in sales. And then our second year, we did just under $9 million. And then cool. This year we're gonna, be around the same growth factor. We can't share today what that number will be, but growth is still very strong. We're almost at 80 employees now. Really, I mean, just this time last year we were what, like 10 people. 10. So. And
a year prior to that. And a year prior to that was 3.
Wow. Very cool, you guys. Well done. So what advice do you have for those who are interested in starting a product-based e-commerce venture? Anything from like the tech side or the business management or inventory and scaling? Like top of mind when you meet someone, what would you say, make sure and do this part right, because it wasn't obvious to me?
I think from the product side, what's really been helpful is just getting started somewhere first. Once we are just confident in just the first version of the product, and letting the customer drive further iterations there. So JT's done a really great job taking customer feedback and quickly making iterations, so that we can. I mean, there was a certain point where our return rate was really high, and again, like during that time, like we thought we were going to go out of business, but yeah. That obviously is not the motivation, but just like quickly iterating based on customer feedback has been really helpful.
And it's not iterating on the customer feedback isn't necessarily doing what your customer is asking for. It's like listening, trying to find the root problem,
really
and
true.
Making changes from there. I'd say for us, we've always sought out really great advisors, and we focus on people that have done the things that we are aspiring to do. People are qualified to advise us if they've done something before. So we have a multitude of advisors that we go to for very specific things. So we had to be very careful that we didn't like fixate on something that wasn't important, and having like a sort of an outsider perspective helps tease out those things, so we realize that we need to move on or take a different approach.
Okay. Why Phoenix?
So we were working together in Palo Alto at the time. I was actually commuting from Phoenix, coming back on the weekends. When it came time to start the business, we had to evaluate geography, right? Are we going to start this business in Palo Alto, in the heart of Silicon Valley, or are we going to do it where I was living at the time, which was Phoenix? Just financially, it made a lot more sense to do it here.
Sure. And
also the environment too. Silicon Valley is, you're surrounded by other venture-funded companies that can influence your mindset in a certain way. Phoenix, we thought it was a really interesting environment to start a bootstrap business in that way. I think there's other communities, pockets like Chicago where that is also the approach. But what we've learned is it's been really great for hiring talent. Otherwise that might leave the state. So we've been hiring some really great people into our company, and there's just also really great infrastructure. Like we work with a great bank here in town, where we can get attention, and so Phoenix has been really great for us.
Very cool. The Phoenix community, I love a lot of our stories here, our success stories are bootstrapped, because in Phoenix historically we haven't had the cash flow for investment. We're starting to tip that a little bit to get more investment, but hopefully never to the point that it becomes what Silicon Valley is, because I think that there's a unique blend that we have here by keeping kind of our feet on the ground and grounded, but still having more opportunities when needed, So I think you guys are a good example of that. Is there anything that the Phoenix community can do to support you guys as you guys are moving forward? Besides buy mattresses?
We're hiring.
You're hiring? Okay.
Yeah, so look at our jobs page.
Very good.
But we'd love to, as we continue growing, work closer with ASU. You connected us with somebody here to continue that path. But yeah, we'd love to continue just collaborating. I think there needs to be a stronger support network of companies that are solving problems. I know there's events like this and such. But there's definitely some more improvements that could be made as far as getting people together. Obviously, I could start with us, just being more involved as well moving
That'd be
forward.
terrific.
But
very good.
But it's a really great foundation. Yeah.
Good, very good. Anything else you'd like to share before we move on to our next phase here?
I would just say that we've, we're almost like brutally focused on happiness and customer experience, from the product to the service. Even our service we treat like a product itself, and that's done us. It's done very well for us. That's what people want. It's really the antithesis of mattress companies as a whole in the industry.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's sort of set up for us to sort of come in and do that.
I met one of your employees tonight that is in customer service, and he was previously at Barney's, New York, I believe, which is so cool to me, because most companies approach the customer service as the entry-level job, but again, with the twist of how you guys look at things, you bring in the high-level concierge to give your customers that experience. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the customer experience team drives our brand. It's the touch point for our customers. So we're able to gather a lot of feedback that way, and also communicate to customers the way we want to that way. So yeah, we're very selective about who we bring to that team, and we're proud of how it's grown so far. I think we're at like 35 team members.
Great
there.
model. Anything top of your mind that you wanted to say before we move on?
I think there's something to be said about our approach to product also, in the sense of focusing on a single product. I know there's other e-commerce brands that try to start with multiple different products. I mean, we could have easily launched accessories around our mattress after our first year, or even when we started. But just focusing on the one product where there is the most pain for customers has helped us just make the most headway there, and continues to be a competitive advantage for us. And also, just speaking about competition, since we started, we've had many copycats spin up.
Sure.
And nowadays, every month we see one or two other bed in a box type e-commerce mattress companies start. But again, I guess this ties back to brand. What they can't copy is the core of how we make decisions. So they can copy the surface of what our brand looks like, or how what type of lines we use in our message, ads, or even how our product looks. But what's still missing in all of them, and the reason why we're still committed so much in investing time and resources into building our brand is that without copying the core, which is the brand and the people around it, they're always going to just be like a gimmick, and that remains true today.
And it's the very thing we set out to be the antithesis of.
Right, that's the problem you're trying to solve. So, yeah, that's true. It's funny, I actually, in doing my research, came across one of your competitors' website that came up in paid search engine results when I searched your name. And on their comparison page, they went through all the little check boxes and everything. And at the end of the day, it was like they considered themselves equal and everything, and then they had a higher price. And I was like, I don't know that you should have this page up, you guys, because clearly Tuft Needle is every bit as good as you, and better if it wasn't slanted from your direction, and cheaper because of the efficiency involved in having one product, I'm sure, so well done, my friends. All right, so before we move on to Q&A, which is coming shortly, so if you have any questions, we like to do a little something fun called 21 Questions Rapid Fire, all right? So we're just going to go back and forth. You each have to give an answer, first thing that comes to mind. We'll start with you, Daehee, and you are second, okay?
Okay.
So first one, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs.
All right. This is why you get along, right? Okay, beer or wine?
Wine.
Wine.
Sushi or tacos?
Sushi.
Can I not answer? I'll say tacos.
Too funny. Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
It's fair.
I don't drink them, but if I had to choose, it'd be Coke.
All right. Favorite app?
I use Evernote. Yeah, that's a great app.
For me, it's mail.
Yeah, sure.
If I lost that app, it would be big trouble.
I understand.
Yeah.
Favorite operating system?
Android, but I can't use it, so I use an iPhone.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. OS 10.
All right. Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving coming up.
Halloween.
Favorite car?
Classic BMWs.
All right.
Yeah, mine's always changing, but right now it's classic Broncos.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that. Favorite vacation spot?
Lake Powell. We recently did a team retreat there.
I would say Stowe, Vermont.
Favorite book?
Recently, Antifragile. That was a great book.
Well, one of my recent ones that I'm really into is The Halo Effect.
Favorite movie or TV show?
I'll let you answer that one first.
Sound of Music.
Okay. Did not see that one coming.
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna
follow
pass on
that
this
up.
one. I can't think of one right now.
That's okay. Favorite artist, like musician?
Been listening to Major Lazer.
Radical Face. I like indie artists. Yeah.
All right. What's your go-to karaoke song?
I don't do karaoke. I don't know if you do either.
I don't do karaoke. I dance. I don't do karaoke.
All right. Okay.
I'll dance to somebody doing karaoke.
That's fair. Anything you collect?
Do you collect anything?
I used to collect things as a kid. I had a coin collection and stamps, but I don't really collect anything anymore. I'm sort of a minimalist. The closest, maybe books. I have a lot of books. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we're both minimalist. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. You collect the absence of things, it sounds
That's
like.
right.
We'll go with it. Any unusual skills or talents?
Nothing here.
Well, I know one
No?
for him. He
Oh,
can,
you do?
yeah,
Okay. See, this is how this works.
So he can sleep on the spot, almost at will.
Wow.
I wish I could do that.
That is pretty
Well,
cool.
That's been a useful skill. Yeah.
That is cool.
Like a nap at will.
Do you have any for us for him? I mean,
JT's a great dancer.
Okay.
All right, we don't have to like keep bringing this up.
Build it up. All right. What would you say is your top strength that you bring to the table as a business owner?
Being grateful about what we built, and just continue to, I guess, just be humbled by what we have today.
Mine's my anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of like a strength and a weakness.
Sure.
But it's one of those things that if something's wrong, you feel like I feel a pain. It keeps me up, and so until it's fixed, it's always there. So he's the opposite. He's very stoic, and I'm always the one that's anxious. So it works well that way.
Very good. What profession other than this would you ever wish that you could have attempted or like to attempt?
I'd love to be a mechanic, working with my hands and fixing things.
Very good.
I'd say like a pilot, like a private jet pilot.
Cool. What is the best compliment someone can give you?
At my point in my life, it would be complimenting my kids, but something, I don't know.
Very good.
I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
A cause you are passionate about?
Well, we're definitely passionate about exposing the truth about mattresses.
Uh-huh.
But I would also say, as part of the company, we've been able to support the cause of helping people get mattresses that don't have them. We started with foster children. Now, like most recently, we just did a pretty big donation to UMOM locally. That is homeless families. So
awesome.
that's a cause we can get behind.
Yeah, I mean, this is our passion. We're solving a problem, and it's gaining traction for a reason because we're doing it. So talk about like a passion driver as you see customers thrilled with your product and sharing the news and all of that. I would say for sure it's Tuft Needle.
Absolutely. What's one thing on your bucket list?
I'd like to either walk or cycle across the states.
Wow, lofty goal.
Well, I was just in Hawaii and I didn't get to see flowing lava, so that's definitely. I need to go back now and see. Yeah.
Maybe not up too close in certain
I would
situations.
like roast some marshmallows over it. Yeah.
All right, very good. And then last question: what would you say is the most awesome thing about your business partner? Not to put you on the spot. Or
Well,
anything.
I would say he's amazing at calming me down. I would say that's
that's the perfect combo there.
He's very stoic about it.
Yeah, I guess to go along with that, JT has a very lofty vision. Sometimes, way out there, but that definitely helps drive, the vision forward. So we definitely need some of that.
Very cool. All right, give him a hand, you guys. Well done. All right. So we have time for a couple of questions. I'll let you guys go ahead and run this. If you don't mind, just try and kind of repeat the questions so that if people couldn't hear it, we can do that.
All right.
Hey, JT, you mentioned about your visits to the suppliers, which is obviously your lifeblood. How do they, you live and die by how they respond to your requests. How does your brand and how's your relationship evolve with those suppliers? Or if you can kind of expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So how does our relationship expand on with our partners, because they're like the lifeblood to us. Yeah, and it's really important. In software, we obviously don't really have suppliers. You have services, but when you've got manufacturers producing like a fabric or foam or something like that, obviously if you're not in good standings with them or vice versa, like there could be some serious problems. So honestly, we're friends with our partners. We're friends. We're also business partners as well. So it all started with like meeting them face to face, and we have very regular check-ins, sharing like our future growth and some of the things we're working on. There's a lot of trust there. They've gone out on limbs for us, especially in the early days, sort of breaking and lowering their minimums. Giving us very favorable terms, which was very helpful for us to bootstrap. And then when they've had some issues, we've been very favorable to them because we understand them and we know what's going on there. Honestly, we treat our partners like customers. So even though we're technically the customer, we view them as just another customer of Tuft Needle.
And there's a lot of knowledge sharing too. Any points of friction, just like we treat them like an extension of the team, helping them improve. And likewise, there's a lot of knowledge sharing that way.
So being a company that's driven so much by culture, and with your 3 to 10 to 80, how are you guys maintaining your culture through your recruiting efforts? Are you still involved in interviewing and hiring, or has that been passed off to, again, going back to trust? What is your process behind that?
We have a leads in recruiting now who handle that, but as far as interviews go, JT and I are still very much involved as much as we can. Usually interviewing every candidate that's still coming in.
Well, there's certain certain situations where we'll step in. So when there's question marks, usually I'll step in. Certain roles that we're always involved with since from the early points, because we have several rounds of interviews. So in most cases, we're a part of all the interviews. Some of the roles, like customer experience and support, we've sort of stepped out, but as long as everybody who's interviewed them is a hell yes. If there's any question marks at all, or anybody's a little bit gray, that's when we'll come in and just double check.
Go ahead.
How did you guys engineer the product? Is there a mattress that you hired?
So the question was, how did we engineer the product? So the way we started was we had all these samples of materials sent to us, and the first goal was to understand everything that was available. So we framed the problem with criteria, and sort of defining our box, just like we did when we started our company. And then it was, okay, what are the materials available to us? We made a version 1 prototype. And then it's been sort of qualitative and quantitative as far as interacting with our customers, testing it in a lab. So we sort of had a roadmap of where our mattress has come a long way. It's always making improvements. So if you purchase a mattress today versus a year ago, you'll see quite a bit of difference. Generally, the way we describe it is if you wouldn't have liked it before, you probably would now. If you did like it before, you'd still like it. So we're expanding the mattress to work for more people. So if any of you don't know, we have one mattress, and the paradigm that's been around for a long time is everybody fits on a sort of this spectrum from soft to firm. And there are mattresses at all of those points. We had a theory that maybe that spectrum doesn't matter, that there is a way to develop a mattress that works for both types of people, in which we've proven. You can see that in our customer satisfaction and return rate. So yeah, as far as engineering, we've gone all the way up to the raw materials. We form a hypothesis around all the way up to like I said, the raw ingredients. Before it even gets to our factories. So, and as far as like how we're working with our suppliers and why the relationship with them is so important, is they're not producing something that they've designed. We're giving them instruction and even selecting the ingredients. So the formula is going to them, and then they sort of go through the procedure, and then we have the product come out the other end. And so that's how we create a consistency with all of our different vendors.
So my curiosity is, my firm, we help people understand next level and get there. So one of the questions we always ask is, what do you feel as owners, management, is your capacity? So for example, you went from 1 million, 10 million, we don't know this number. What will you feel is your capacity, either employee size or revenue size, where you say, just a little much, I need to.
I'll speak to my experiences. So there are definitely like breakpoints in company headcount and revenue where, I've sometimes doubted myself. Like, is this company getting too large for me? I've never done this before. Where I feel like the business is hurtling forward, and I'm just getting dragged along by it, and it's especially part of my role. I'm just like kind of playing clean up, making sure nothing's like breaking. But it's always been a personal development opportunity. Especially just having another co-founder to support. My growth. It's I've always just stepped up the challenge and learned what I needed to do and or hired certain people to help us. In various areas of the business. Obviously started with JT and I handling everything, and now we have specialized leads and teams for every area of the business. So I'd say we even when we hit 100 million, 500, a billion, we're going to continue growing with the company because we have the support for each other and from our teams, and we also believe in obviously the easy way out would be say we hit a certain revenue number, bring in some executive that has done it before, but we don't necessarily believe in that, and we're going to try it our way, which is to learn with people who have a lot of potential and can grow with us and grow together, because someone who's done it in a different company, a different industry, they're going to have a set way of thinking, set way of doing things, and it's not necessarily totally applicable to our business. So we believe in the collaboration and those type of dynamics where we can be an autonomous team and it's been really successful for us so far.
And we see there are examples of founders who have gone all the way. So I can't answer that. I don't know what my capacity is and how far it would go, or Daehee's. But I would say one of the things that I found personally really beneficial is sort of getting out of the day-to-day and taking some personal time to digest and to read and study and seek advising. I have a personal advisor who I ask to yell at me, like when I'm making mistakes, tell me what I'm doing wrong, and so it's just it can be very stressful, and I don't know, for me, as we've hit those breakpoints, I've noticed that my stress levels sort of peak, and it gets really tough. Then something sort of happens or clicks, and then there's like a release, and then it becomes sort of normal and good. And sort of I brace myself for the next one. So, yeah.
We'll do 2 more questions.
I'd like if you guys can touch up a little bit on the advisor side of things, because I feel, at least me personally, I'm kind of hitting some of those roadblocks where I haven't learned that yet, or I haven't experienced that yet. So sometimes it'd be nice to just pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm sure you've gone through that before, kind of help me steer the way through. So how do you guys go about seeking out advisors, and what do you say to them, what do you work out with them to kind of get them to say, yeah, I'll help you guys out?
Well, it started with family and friends, and who do I know that's done something that's the closest to what we are doing, or where we're going, that we knew. And so we found somebody to help us, and that person helped us to a point. And sort of as you grow the business, you start to meet more people, and then we found another advisor, kind of like the next level. Like, you find somebody who can advise you for the next stage, and then when you start to realize, like, when you begin outgrowing them, and looking for somebody who's more experienced, going that route. So we originally started with a very generalist advisor. Now we have very specific people. It's hard. It's hard finding them. And sometimes you go a while without having somebody when you need them. So it's like when they kind of show up, and you're sort of lucky that way.
Yeah, we have a network of both formal and informal advisors, but just the most important thing for us has been just setting expectations up front, like time commitment, and what we're looking from the relationship, and just so that there's shared expectations in that way. And when they can't keep up with what you're doing, you can always find another advisor. But just kind of going along with my previous comment, the advisors have been the critical just way for us to continue growing with the business and helping us along the way.
For one company, the business model and engineering. For your case is product engineering. So both are very important, but which one is most important for your case? And this is the first question. And what is the motivation, the largest motivation behind you? What big difference do you make in your business?
So the question was between product engineering and
technology and business model.
So, which is more important, or which?
Right.
So, is the business model more important than the technology?
Because traditional matrix or internet matrix is different, but a lot of business on this field. So why you're outstanding out of this industry? So what feature drives you standing out?
Is your competitive advantage your product or the way you do business?
So it started with the way we were doing business and saw how we were solving that particular problem. So when we started and shopping for a mattress and going into a mattress store with a sea of mattresses to choose from, and then the price, and the confusion, and we saw like dishonesty and gimmicks. So we were all about honesty and being authentic. So when we first started, it was almost like we were doing the opposite. So the way we would price the product, the way we would develop the product, the way we would do our service, it was honestly, it was just doing the right thing because our competitors or the incumbents, we didn't believe we're doing the right thing. So and making decisions in the best interest of their customers. And so when we launched, we were one of the big, from a product point of view, was we had one mattress. So we were the first company to do that. Now there's, like Daehee said, we've got quite a few other companies who see what we're doing and find a little twist or a little change that they can make to differentiate themselves. But honestly, we're just sticking to making our decisions the way we do, and constantly improving the product, putting the customer first. And our products are very different. Our foam, we have a new kind of foam that you can't get it anywhere. We invented it. So down to the chemistry of the foam is is very different. So there's points of view as far as differentiation from the product that we really do stand apart in.
Also, another to add to that, I think it's also just about humanizing the product too. It's not just the technology itself. It's we think of it as the experience as the product. So thinking about every touch point with the customer, whether it's pre-sales or even follow-up, and making sure that just thinking about it holistically and continue to develop it with that mindset has been key.
Very good. Thank you, you guys. And there are mattresses they can sit on and lay on over here and over there, right?
Yeah, so what you see here today
out.
is an experiment of a showroom. So you can come in here. We have people coming here 6 days out of the week, right? And where they can try out the mattress before they purchase online. So we're seeing what happens there.
Perfect. So for what's happening next year, my friends, our generous sponsors have provided us with hundreds of dollars in raffles that we get to give away shortly. And so for those of you that are interested in the raffles, hang out in this area, and in about 5 or 10 minutes I will go ahead and take care of that. Outside of that, we have about another half hour in the space. Continue to meet each other, continue to support each other. Startup Grind is all about all of you coming together to get to know each other and learn from each other. Continue to talk to these guys as they'll be roaming the room, and thank you for coming tonight. All right?
Thank you.